Okay, in this module, we're going to review dashboards in mobile reporting, and specifically when we would use dashboards inside of our mobile devices. Dashboards are a visual interface that provides at-a-glance views into key measures relevant to a particular object or objective or a business process. So we have a business process inside of our operation that we want to measure, but when we provide these dashboards to our CEO or to our executives, we want to give them an at-a-glance view. And what that means is that they can look at that dashboard and immediately draw conclusions from that dashboard and from some of the information that we've put into that dashboard. A dashboard is really going to consist of three key attributes. First of all, it's going to display data graphically, such as in charts or graphs. It's going to provide visualizations that help focus attention on key trends, comparisons, and exceptions. So we're looking at that dashboard and it's going to give us that data graphically. So we're not having to do a lot of self-analysis here. It's only going to display data that is relevant to the goal of the dashboard. So if we have a dashboard that is, for example, telling us information relevant to the profit of our business and our business process, then we should only see information in that dashboard that is related to that profit. The other thing that's very key element to the dashboard, and probably the most important, is that the dashboard is going to contain predefined conclusions that are relevant to the goal of the dashboard. And me, as a reader and as the consumer of that dashboard, I do not have to perform my own analysis. As a matter of fact, as the consumer of the dashboard, I should not be performing any of my own analysis. When I look at that dashboard, it should immediately tell me if I'm making my goal or if I'm not making my goal. I should be able to look at a graphical visual item on that dashboard and be able to tell immediately whether I am successful or if we're not successful, if this is an item that we need to look further into or if we do not need to look further into it. But that is the purpose of the dashboard. So the reader and the consumer of that dashboard should not need to perform any analysis on their own. That analysis is already built into those graphical visuals that we've added to that report. On the other hand, we have reports, and some of the report characteristics are going to be in direct contrast of what you see when we're working with dashboards. A report can be described as a document that contains data used for viewing and analysis. A report can be as simple as a data table or as complex as a subtotaled view with interactive drilling. So we can have that drill through capability there where we look at something and say, you know what, I want to get some more information about this, and you drill down and you drill down some more. The key attribute of a report is that it's not going to lead the reader to a predefined conclusion like the dashboard does. So the report can still include analysis and aggregations, calculations. It can include charts, and it often will, but the reader and the consumer of that report is going to apply their own judgment and analysis to the data and come up with their own conclusion. So that's really the difference there between the dashboard and the reports. Now, if you're thinking, okay, well, I've seen reports that obviously have gauges or that have KPIs and those kind of things that do give you those predefined conclusions, then that's true as well. And of course, reports can have those, but typically that's not the goal of a report. A report gives you the information that you need so that you can do further analysis, whereas a dashboard is just simply going to give you that predefined conclusion. We're either making our goal or we are not. And those are going to be the differences there between when we're working with dashboards and reports. The reason we review these two side by side here, report characteristics and then dashboard characteristics, is because what we're going to be working with here in the mobile reporting class is dashboards. So when we get into the mobile report publisher, you'll notice that all we're working with is dashboards. We're not building those data-rich reports that allow you to do further analysis and drill through capabilities and all of that. Now we can connect our dashboards to these reports through URLs. There's some drill through capabilities that we have through the dashboards, and we'll talk about those. But in general, what we're talking about in this course is just building those mobile reports, and those mobile reports are going to be dashboard driven. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the dashboard design. With the mobile report publisher, there is a design first approach. And the way that we do this design first approach, is it's going to provide you with sample data in simulated data. And this is going to be a great way to quickly prototype the dashboards and show the end users or those executives what the reports and those dashboards are going to look like on the mobile devices before you ever go through the process of bringing the data together. And I really like this approach to designing reports. And when we go through our reporting services class, we've always taught this approach. We say, take your reports that you're going to develop, put them on a whiteboard, get the end user in there that's going to consume the report, and make sure that you have all of the requirements there. So build out the report visually on a whiteboard before you actually start building that report, because there's always a communication breakdown between the business user and the IT department. And unfortunately, it's because, of course, the IT person speaks a different language, really, when we start talking about all the different acronyms and terminology and technology. But also that IT person has a lot of different reports they're working on. And then you have the business user that might have their own idea of what they want, but they have a hard time verbalizing that, and they have a hard time communicating that. So with this design first approach that you're going to see, it's really going to prevent a lot of those problems that we had in the past with communication. It's going to solve a lot of those communication problems, because immediately when you have a request to build a dashboard, you sit down with those executives and you say, okay, this is what I took from what you said. And within 30 seconds or a minute, you've already designed that dashboard that they verbally explained to you. And then you can verify that, hey, is this what you want or is it not? And if it's not, then we can take a step back, remove an item very quickly, and add that item back in. And because you have this simulated data that's provided inside of the mobile report publisher, it's very easy to see that interactive data and how it works. So it's really going to solve a lot of those problems. So I love this approach, this design first approach. And then after we design the data and we've kind of ironed everything out with the end user that's going to consume it, then we go and collect that data. Then we go back and we go and say, okay, let me get the data out of those databases, or out of Excel is also going to be an option that we have here. And that's when we do the data collection of the process. So there's two different steps here. Now, once we start collecting the data, we then go back into the mobile report publisher and we start updating those different graphical visuals that we have to start reading from the data set that we've created. Now, keep in mind that you can have a mix and match between simulated data and server data that we're bringing from our server resources, as well as our Excel data. So just keep that in mind. So maybe we have to do the data collection. We have to bring in multiple data sets here. So we bring in the first one, we update 2 of those graphical items on that dashboard, and then we go ahead and publish that out and we let the executives look at it. And we tell them, hey, 2 of these have the real data and then those other 4 still have simulated data. So there's almost like this incremental approach to building out that dashboard when we need to. And then finally, of course, the dashboard design has to be goal-oriented, right? We know that there should be predefined conclusions in that dashboard so that when the end user looks at it, immediately they know either they're making their goal or they are not making their goal. But that is going to be the purpose of that dashboard that we design. All right, now one of the main questions that we're going to get here when we start designing these mobile reports is, when should I use mobile reports and when should I use Power BI reports? And that's, of course, going to be a very tricky question. Both of these are going to, I imagine, have a lot of updates. Power BI is going through a lot of updates. If you haven't been following Power BI and the Power BI team, they have made just an amazing amount of updates in the last year since they've released the product. But let's talk about the items that we have right now as of the recording of this class. The first thing I noticed with mobile reports is we have the design first approach. There is no real design first approach with Power BI. There's still the whiteboarding aspect of it, of course, where we should sit down and whiteboard. But as far as the design capabilities and solving some of those communication problems, I would give the edge here to mobile reports. Probably the biggest reason that you would want to use mobile reports is the on-premise capability that we have with mobile reports. Power BI right now is solely a cloud service. Now, my understanding is that they are going to be releasing an on-premise capability there. But as of now, the on-premise capability is probably going to be the biggest reason why users are going to say, all right, we're going to go with mobile reports instead of Power BI. Mobile reports, of course, have that dashboard philosophy, whereas Power BI does not. Power BI does have dashboard capability because there's a lot of the same visuals, a lot of the same capabilities. You're not really building reports in Power BI, but you do have a little bit more flexibility in Power BI than you do with mobile reports. In mobile reports, once we build that dashboard, you can't scroll down, you can't scroll over. It's a single page. That's all you have. Power BI is going to have a little bit more interaction to it than we get with mobile reports. And you just have to decide on your own which one of these is better, because you can make a good argument for either one. Mobile reports is also going to give us custom branding. So we can now custom brand our web portal, whereas Power BI just doesn't quite have that functionality yet. So that's going to be another win kind of point to the mobile reports here. Because mobile reports are going to have that on-premise capability, we're going to be able to have larger size limits here, so larger reports. Whereas mobile, or Power BI rather, is going to still be limited to that 10 gigabyte size limit for those pro accounts. Now, I expect that that size limit will grow. And of course, if you are limited to that, then one of your options with Power BI is really to do live query, where you do a query directly against the database, which is going to get around that whole size limit issue. But the size limit issue is a concern with Power BI, whereas with mobile reports, you don't have to worry about that. Mobile reports do have the KPI functionality, which we'll get into here in this course. Power BI does not, so there's no KPIs currently available in Power BI. Mobile reports do not have data alerts. So when you're working with Power BI, you have the flexibility there to set up data alerts and get alerts when something happens in your business or in your data, and you'll get an alert on your mobile device. The mobile reports currently do not have that. Now, if you're working in reporting services and building those paginated reports, you have subscriptions, of course, those are still available, but we don't have data alerts yet on those mobile reports. And then the final thing here is really going to be the limitations that mobile reports have as far as the visuals and the data sources. And when we're talking about the visuals here, what we're saying is that there's limited visuals. It's not necessarily a bad thing, because maybe you want it to be a simpler tool and you're handing this off to those data analysts and some of the executives and users that really don't do a lot of development work, and you want them to maybe have the flexibility to build their own dashboards. So from that perspective, having the limited amount of visuals is going to be a good thing. But Power BI still has that end-user capability and is very easy to use, and it's very rich in visuals. There's a lot of custom visualizations you can add. You can build your own custom visualizations, and it's also very rich in just the built-in visualizations. And the monthly updates that we get in Power BI, there's always new stuff coming out. So for me, Power BI really gets the win as far as the visualizations that are available there. And then Power BI, because of the functionality of Power Query there, you have many disparate data sources. Pretty much anything you want to tap into, you can bring into Power BI. Whereas with mobile reports, we're going to be a little bit limited, as you will see, with the data sources that we have. Finally, the last thing here is going to be a question of when do we use those mobile reports versus the paginated reports. And this goes back to really just the comparing and contrasting between the dashboards and the reports that we talked about just a few moments ago. The mobile reports are going to be that dashboarding capability, whereas the paginated reports are going to be that report capability that we want. So the paginated reports, they're going to be printable. It's going to have all of that detailed information we talked about before. We're going to be able to drill down, drill through, drill into the data, really do our own analysis. There's no predefined conclusions in those paginated reports. These are those report characteristics. Whereas the mobile reports, they're designed specifically for those mobile devices, the tablet as well as our mobile devices, our cell phones. We do have the dashboard capability there. Keep in mind that the mobile report is a little bit misleading here as well, because when we design these mobile reports, they will work on the desktop. And I would encourage you to use them on the desktop, because now we have these very functional, very cool looking dashboards that we've designed, and you can use them right there inside of the web portal. So they do also work on the desktop, even though they're called mobile reports. And then there are no subscriptions, there are no data alerts available when we're working with the mobile reports. Whereas, of course, with the paginated reports, with your typical reporting services reports that you've used in the past, we do have those subscriptions there that can deliver those reports to us kind of on demand. All right. So those are some of the things we're going to be reviewing as we walk through this section here. But first, let's go ahead and jump into our web portal again and just take a tour of an interactive dashboard. So a pre-built dashboard that we've already designed. We're just going to take a look at a dashboard here, and then we'll jump into our next module. All right, so I'm back in the web portal here, and we've already reviewed the web portal. What I want to do is open up one of these mobile reports that I have here. So I have my regional sales and my new mobile report. Either one is fine. I'm going to click on this one here. And this is that capability I was talking about a moment ago, where we can open up a mobile report and we can view this right here inside of reporting services. So right inside of our web portal, we now have this dashboard that we can review and we can take a look at. And this is going to be a very interactive report here. So the first thing I'll point out to you is, notice at the top we have the name of the mobile report that we opened up. And then we also have the filters that have been applied to this report. So at this current time, we've applied a filter for the years 2011 through 2016. So you can see that every year that's in our database has currently been selected. So there really is no filter there. And then over here, we have a drop-down select list. And this is just simulated data that's provided by the mobile report publisher. And I can select any individual item if I like, or I can select the All tab up here at the top. So you can pretend like maybe this is a category or a subcategory or a particular product within our business. And up here at the top, we can see that we're currently filtered to the All level. So there's no filter applied. Now, as we add filters here to our data, all of the charts and items in here can be configured to be filtered by those items. So if I were to select 2013, you'll see that the data of these other ones change as well. And it changes very quickly, so it's kind of hard to see when that data changes, but that's how that works. So let's walk through the time navigator just a little bit here. This is called a time navigator. It's really cool functionality. I can grab 3 months very quickly just by dragging and selecting them. All right. I can also grab this and select additional months this way as well. I can expand the window that I have down here at the bottom by just expanding this little, I call it a rubber band here, right? I can expand the rubber band. It gives me more months and more years. I can minimize that back down and get closer to where I really want to drill in. I'm limited to just the month level, but that's because it was only set up to go down to the month level. And we'll review that later in a later module. I can also go back and just look at the last quarter. And when I click on that, it changes my data, and all the data in my dashboard is reflecting only the last quarter. And you'll see the chart down here, this geographical map and visualization that we have change as I go from the last quarter, and then I click on the last 6 months. And then if I go and look at the entire last year, I can see that as well. So now I can see the last year is all that's being displayed here. And if I want to only select 3 months in there, I can select 3 months as well. And then when I come over here, we now have this kind of select list that we've added to our dashboard as well. And I can come in here and I can start selecting items from that select list. And when I select those items, you'll see that the values should change if the filter has been set up. And it looks like this filter has not been configured yet. But we can set the filters up to be a single select, so you can only select one item, or it can also be configured so that you can do a multi-select functionality as well. But this is going to be that interactive dashboard functionality that we have as we start building out these mobile reports in SQL Server 2016.